The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. This is Miles Hischer here from Highview Solutions. Thank you all for making time today. We're going to start a few minutes after the top of the hour, so hang tight, and thanks again for making the time. Hello, everyone. This is Miles Hischer. I'm the Director of Sales and Account Management at Highview Solutions, a Google Cloud partner. I'll be hosting the webinar today. We'll get started in a couple minutes here. Please note I have placed everyone on mute initially as you join. We'll wait a few more minutes to let the roster stabilize, and then I'll do a quick audio check, and then we'll jump into today's content. Thanks for your patience. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just to run a couple quick audio checks today. Um, Good morning, Patrick. Patrick, can you hear me okay? Excellent. I see your comment in the chat. And feel free, guys, if you would like, you'd also connect via phone audio if it's easier for you.
Miles, can you hear me?
I can. Hey,
Okay, great.
Patrick.
Hey, how are you, Miles?
Good, good. Thanks so much for making time. Can you hear me okay?
No worries. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and throw you back on mute just to avoid any feedback. But if you have any questions, or if anyone else from the audience today has questions, feel free to use the raise your hand feature if you want to ask your question out loud. Otherwise, go ahead and enter it into the questions box, and I'll repeat and answer to the best I can. So, great. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the focus of today's session is talking about how organizations are improving workplace collaboration by deploying Google Docs and Drive within their Microsoft environment. So just to get right into it here, once again, I'm the Director of Google Cloud Sales at Highview Solutions. Highview is a Google Cloud partner. In particular, we focus on taking a very people-centric approach to managing workplace technology changes. Oftentimes, this is well known as organizational change management, and that's sort of been our special niche in the marketplace, supporting customers like Glassdoor to ensure that they are getting the most out of their G Suite investment. So just to give you a sense of the focus for today, we're mainly going to focus on the collaboration suite. So I may use the term G Suite, which refers to the Google Apps for Work product family, including Gmail, Google Chat, Calendar, Google Plus Google Drive, Doc Sheets and Slides, and the management tools. We are not going to talk about the communication suite today. We're mainly going to focus the conversation on Google Drive for storing and sharing files, and the Google Doc product family as modes of collaboration. Great. So this is intended for those of you in the audience who recognize that you want to improve how employees are communicating at your organization, but you also have no interest in moving away from Exchange Office 365. Many times IT managers reach out to us and say, hey, Miles, my users absolutely love working in Outlook. We love our Exchange environment. However, we really don't like SharePoint. We really don't like OneDrive. Can we somehow deploy G Suite in a way where we could get Google Docs and Drive, but keep our Exchange and for email contacts and calendar? And that's sort of what spurred us to start doing more of these types of deployments and eventually build this into a formal package that we're presenting today. Another common trend is oftentimes these IT teams have fragmented file storage environments. So they might have a bit of Dropbox usage, some Box usage, some OneDrive, as well as on-premise file servers. And oftentimes they will implement Google Drive as a way to standardize around one platform. So this is not only implementing Google Drive and integrating with your existing environment, but it's also lifting and shifting data from these other multi-cloud storage systems or on-premise systems and consolidating into Google Drive. Great. So just to go through some table of contents for today, I do want to start with talking about how Google Sales and myself internally, when we're dealing with new customers, first introduce the value of Google Drive and Docs. Two, if you have already recognized the value of Google Drive and Docs, I want to talk about how we've seen other IT leaders build internal business cases and present those to the rest of their organization to get buy-in across the business. This is very, very important, especially if you're in a old school type organization that might be a little bit more resistant to change. If you have this very clear business case, it provides a very good jumping off point for the project. Then we'll move into a day in the life. So I'll talk about what it actually looks like to use Outlook with Google Drive and also the MS Office suite. So this is viewing Drive as not only a way to create Google Doc sheets and slides, but also Google Drive is a way to store and engage with your MS Office files. And we'll talk about that in more detail. And then I'm going to walk through two deployment approaches that are most popular for our customers at the moment. One is mainly focused on just getting the collaboration tool set out to employees. So improved collaboration with Google Docs is really the theme of this deployment approach. And then the second deployment approach goes a step further, where it's not only improving collaboration with Google Docs, it's actually releasing Google Drive as a unified platform for file storage and collaboration. So, great. So let's start with why Google Drive and Docs. So it's incredibly easy to use, both on the administration side as well as the end user side. It's incredibly easy to manage and quite business ready. And then you have the advantage of Google's, obviously, their global infrastructure. Getting into some of the key benefits for employees, oftentimes you might have employees at your organization that want to collaborate in real time, and they want version history for files that they're working on. This really is a better alternative to emailing attachments back and forth. So if you look at the way of working where you're emailing a Word doc to 6 people and asking them to make updates versus working in a Google Doc, it's night and day difference for the amount of work you could get done in a Google Doc. Also, being able to stay connected wherever you are across all your different devices. And also, too, you're providing employees with technology that they already use and love. Many people are using Google Drive on a personal side, or they use personal Gmail accounts. So they're taking that technology that they already love and bringing it into the office. And we actually were working with an organization where the impetus for launching Google Drive and Docs actually came from the recruiting and human resources director. So she said, to attract and retain talent, we need to provide best-in-class productivity tools that people want to use. So as more and more millennials, are entering the workforce and the next generation, this is going to be more common, where people ask, hey, like, what type of technology do you guys use internally? And you never want internal technology to be a blocker for bringing on good talent. So that's an example of a human resource driven change. Just a couple notes on Google's trusted global security infrastructure. I am not going to spend a ton of time here, but Google does invest a lot of resources to develop their own backbone. So they actually lay cables across the oceans to connect their data centers, and invests quite heavily in research and development to not only support their own search business on their Google Cloud infrastructure, but also allow customers to run workloads on Google Cloud Platform, and then, of course, providing a cloud productivity solution with G Suite. Great. And as we get into, there's also a whole suite of admin console tools. We're not going to touch a lot about the admin console today, but you do have Google Vault, which is built into Google G Suite, which provides a backup and e-discovery tool for all of your Google Drive documents. And there's also on the admin side some data loss prevention and other features that you could implement as well. And then, of course, Google has taken the steps to get all sorts of security and compliance certifications. So we're actually doing more and more work within the healthcare space and helping many healthcare organizations move over to Google Drive, which abides by their HIPAA compliant standards. Great. So just in conclusion, we always highlight this during the initial discovery phase of working with IT teams. So great for users. You have Google Drive, which has a suite of mobile apps. It's really built with collaboration in mind. Today we'll talk about working with MS Office files and all types of files. And then on the IT side, you get unlimited storage with G Suite Business. There's also a lot of stuff you can do with AppScript to build on top of that. It's a very secure environment, easy to manage, and very extendable. Great. Okay, let me pause there and see if there's any questions from the audience so far. Okay, I see a question from Patrick. Hey, Patrick, I saw your question around migration of data. You mentioned that you guys might be one of those customers that has like a multi-storage environment. Is that correct?
Yeah, Miles, one of the things that the challenges I have as an IT director is that right now a lot of my users today are using Box, Dropbox, as well as some on-premise type server. Um, it's kind of a multi-cloud environment. Are you seeing customers migrate and sort of consolidate that? And how does that work?
Yeah. So the short answer is yes. We definitely are seeing customers consolidate to Google Drive. As far as how the data migration actually works, it really depends on your environment and what data is stored where, and then also the migration path. But as Google Cloud partners, we specialize in those types of data migrations. So we've taken very large organizations over from um, like Dropbox or Box instances or multiple cloud storage environments and consolidated those over to Drive, and also migrate over all the access level control permissions and everything. So I'll talk about that a little bit further down the line as we get into the deployment options as well. Good question. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to keep going here just in the interest of time, but I'll stop further along for some additional questions. So if you are someone who already recognizes the value of Google G Suite and Google Drive, here's some steps that we've seen other IT leadership take to build their internal business case. So one, you could reach out across the organization and identify teams of people who are using free Google accounts to access Drive and Docs. So if you don't know this, you could actually go to google.com and basically create a free Google account with your work email. It basically will allow you to work in Google Docs and Google Sheets, but it's not actually a managed G Suite instance. Oftentimes at organizations that have a few hundred employees plus, there's always users that are using these free Google accounts. Another example of this might be employees that are using at Gmail accounts, just consumer accounts to collaborate. And so what we encourage you to do is actually reach out and talk to different department heads and see if you could pinpoint just anecdotally who's using Google accounts today, and then compile that into a usage report. If you want to go a step further, and this is something that we often get involved with, and we pull in a Google Cloud sales rep as well, and they could actually look up these free accounts on their side. But you could actually talk to those individuals and create a wall of quotes slide. So this is very, very powerful because it explains, okay, how is Becky in HR using Google Docs or Google Drive, and how is Michael over in sales? And you sort of get this wall of quotes that you could present to leadership at the organization. And then finally, identifying an executive sponsor. So this is very, very important early on. It's ideal if this executive sponsor is actually outside of IT. We found that works the best if you have some other executive, maybe a marketing director, for instance, that recognizes the increase in productivity his team would see if they could use Google Docs, and then he could sort of be the champion for that project. When you're going through and highlighting your business case, we're actually on a lot of these calls when internal IT directors are presenting to the C-level executives at their organization. This is generally what works the best. One, they highlight those usage findings, key benefits, which we just went through, and then also mention that they've secured some executive sponsorship. And also, too, if it's just internal IT initially, you could always tie to existing IT objectives, such as improving workplace collaboration. Another common one there is consolidating to Google Drive is often a cost savings measure. So by eliminating Box, Dropbox, and all these other instances, you're not only saving on licensing of those other services as they're deprecated, but you could also streamline operations, which will save costs as well. Also, too, always important to talk about how people are already using Google products. Guarantee that there's some usage at your organization in some way, shape, or form. So implementing a managed G Suite instance allows you to implement policies around data loss prevention and data retention, and sort of brings that under IT's purview, which really leads us into the third option here, which this whole process is also a chance for IT to evaluate the G Suite platform and identify future opportunities over time. So by deploying Drive, you have access to the core admin console that you would use if you're going to use G Suite in its entirety. And so a Drive deployment is actually a very good way from an IT perspective to get familiar with how Google handles organization units, restricts certain policies from the admin side, and can get you more comfortable and then put you in a position to more easily move the organization over for mail, contacts, and calendar. Great. Okay, so I now want to segue and actually do a quick employee experience demo. I'll talk about working in Outlook and Drive, ways of working with MS Office files in Drive, and then specifically around team drives. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my Drive demo account here. Excellent. And you'll notice I'm logged into the Google Chrome web browser. Within the Google Chrome web browser, you could set up a Google Chrome profile and then tie that to your work email address. There is now a way to actually enforce the use of Chrome profiles. Once users are logged into Google Chrome with their G Suite account credentials, it actually unlocks a huge suite of management tools from the IT side, allowing you to restrict access to certain services, certain websites, and also push extensions to users. So once again, I'm operating within Google Chrome here and looking at Google Drive. So let's just start with some fundamental points about Drive. So you have the option to create new files and folders by selecting New. You can upload folders from your computer or create doc sheets and slides. You have My Drive, which is a place to store personal files or a place for storing files that will be shared on a one-off basis. And you also have Team Drives, which are more collaborative workspaces. Team Drives can be set up by administrators or by users and function as a drive that's owned by the organization that has a very simple access level control list. And then all individuals that are added to a team drive could see all files and folders within that particular drive. Great. So in this case, let's go ahead and drill into a specific subfolder within my team drive. And then you'll see here I actually have a Word file, a PowerPoint file, and an Excel file. So I want to start here because there's always a confusion that people think if you're moving to Google Drive, you have to have your employees using doc sheets and slides. That's actually not the case. So in this case, I have an Excel file stored in here. I've double-clicked. I could get a quick preview of this file as I like. Same with the Word doc here. And you'll see as I click from the web interface, I actually have the ability to now leave comments. So I could go ahead and click Add Comment, and I could go ahead and highlight some of that text and then add the comment bubble on the right-hand side and actually direct this comment to a particular individual. So I could use the @ symbol or the plus symbol and add my colleague Mary. Say, can you review this? So you might be familiar with commenting within a Google Doc, but this is actually an example of how we could use Google Drive commenting with Microsoft Office files. So you're getting the benefit of commenting as a way of working in collaboration as opposed to sending over email, but you're not actually transforming this into a Google Doc. So this could be very helpful once again in Excel, where I could click Add Comment, select some cells there, use the @ symbol to direct the comment to a particular colleague. Please update. And when you leave comments, either within a Google Doc, sheet slide, or within Excel, PowerPoint, or Word, that will trigger an email notification to that particular individual, letting them know that cell has been updated. Great. Once again, click Assign and send that email. So for those email notifications, if you are using an Exchange or Office 365 environment, it's totally fine. Basically, you'll see here I have my account connected to Microsoft Outlook, and you will simply receive those email notifications right into your inbox as they come over. So once again, all your notifications from Drive that are triggered will send emails out from your Google Drive service, and it will be received into the inboxes of your of your customers on Office 365 or Exchange. Great. The other way of working with MS Office files that's quite popular within Drive is actually using the Google Drive file stream client. So you'll see up here at the top of my account, I could actually open up the file stream client, which is almost like a Dropbox-like sync client that allows you to work with your Google Drive files directly from your computer. So in this case, I've opened up Google Drive file stream, and I can see all of my team drives as well as my drive. This product came out in Q4 of 2017, and it's very powerful in that it allows you to view all of your files and folders from your computer, but it does not automatically download all those files and folders to your computer. It's called File Stream because it basically just streams the file or folder name, and then if you double click on a specific file, so in this case, I'm going to go to this same subfolder here, this key metrics and KPIs. As I double click on that Excel file, that item will actually natively open up in Excel or PowerPoint, etc. And then I could go ahead and make those changes, or in PowerPoint, for instance, make those changes and then save back to FileStream, and that will push the updates into Google Drive. When it actually pushes the updates, it will actually, if you right-click on the Google Drive interface and select Manage Versions, you could actually see earlier versions of this file and folder. So you'll see a new version was just updated as changes were made at 1023, and so on and so forth, looking at earlier versions. Great. FileStream is very popular for Microsoft enterprises that are using Drive. It's the preferred way of working. That way employees can simply work directly from their computer and then have Outlook open, and they're really not interacting with the Drive interface unless they are working in Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides. And in order to do that, they would simply click New and open up a Google Doc. I'm not going to fully demonstrate Google Docs in its entirety, but I do briefly want to talk about how easy it is to share. So within a Google Doc, you have operations, marketing, sales, for instance. And then in the top right-hand corner, I'm going to go ahead and click Share. And it's as simple as adding a colleague, one of our senior change managers, Narjit. And then I could go ahead and click Send to Narjit, and then she'll receive an email notification indicating that a document has been shared with her. Now, if Narjit happens to be in front of her computer, she can go ahead and open up this document and then start collaborating with me in real time, just like that. And then if not in real time, I could also add comments for her to update later. Great. Excellent. I could actually see Narjit now in this document up at the top right, and I could see her highlighting text and making changes. So her cursor in this case appears in pink. And Narjit, actually, if you could go ahead and add some text under operations, that would be great. Excellent. So Narjit left a comment on the far right-hand side, and she's adding some additional text there. Excellent. Okay, so I want to show something that Narjit's doing, because she's actually using a very powerful feature within Google Docs called suggesting mode. So she's making suggested edits under operations by clicking in the top right-hand corner, and instead of just using editing mode, she's actually turned her edits into suggestions. This is almost the equivalent of track changes in Microsoft Word. So in this case, I could go in here and now accept the suggestions or accept Narjit's contributions to this document, just like that, as a way of working. So through the combination of commenting, directing comments to particular individuals, and then using suggesting mode, you're able to really start working in real time and bringing projects to market. In addition, at any point under File, I can go to Download As, export this Google Doc into a Word doc if I need to send it to an external partner. I could also download into a PDF if I like. And then I also have version history. So we talked about this being one of the main benefits. I can click and see version history, and you'll see it's actually created a log of all the changes that I've made in this document over time, and the changes that Narjit's made as well. And then I could roll back to an earlier version as needed. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of Google Docs, but it is a very powerful way of working. Okay, we talked about team drives in more detail. I do briefly want to highlight a couple new features in Google Sheets briefly that just came out fairly recently, as I think all of you might get some value out of hearing about these new features. So a big update that came out a couple weeks ago, Google Sheets now has macros. So this is the first cloud-based spreadsheet application that has a macro capability, but is incredibly powerful because you could tie those to time-based triggers, and then your macros, since they're living in the cloud, could run at a regular interval, for instance, versus being reliant on that machine actually being on. So that's a very big feature that a lot of our customers are super excited about. Google's also made some pretty substantial improvements to charting and formatting and a few other features as well. So I'm clicking on here just to make a quick copy of Google Sheets. And as I click in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see this Explore feature will allow me to quickly create pivot tables or create certain types of charts just by clicking and dragging. And then I can always right-click in the top right-hand corner and move these charts to their own sheets. So it might not be a replacement for Excel for everyone, but could definitely meet the needs of many of your employees across the organization. So, okay, great. So I will go ahead and go back to my slides here, and that's it for the demo. So just to conclude, if you're working in Google Drive, it will trigger notifications that your employees can receive in their Outlook mail client. You can work with MS Office files in Drive. You can use that commenting feature within the web interface or Google Drive file stream. And there's also, once again, that Team Drives feature, which is quite powerful. Allows you to set up company-owned drives versus everything being done at the user level. Okay, great. So I'm going to continue on here. A couple approaches to consider if you've gone through, built your business case, and you want to start thinking about actually implementing Google Drive. So the two approaches here, as I mentioned in the kickoff, was one, just getting Google Docs out to improve collaboration. And the focus here is Google Drive and Docs is mostly a way just to create and edit and collaborate in real time, not so much as a place for storing files. The benefits realized here, you have improved collaboration, you have IT control over usage versus those free accounts that we talked about, and you also have an opportunity to start evaluating the admin console and platform. The other approach, which we'll talk about as well, is more cohesive and involves not only releasing the collaboration toolset, doc sheet, slides, form, and sites, but also Google Drive as a file storage solution, as the unified standard for file storage. You get all the benefits of the first approach, but you also get to eliminate costs for other services like Box and Dropbox. And you could also streamline operations and combine your file sharing services and your collaboration suite, which, to be honest, many of our customers have reported is a huge driver of productivity. Having people collaborating in Google Docs and then quickly going to Google Drive to access files, all within the Google platform, is much more efficient than having them reference links over to a Box environment or try to find something on-prem. So here's a sample set of deliverables that we would recommend as you're thinking about going down this approach for just improving collaboration with Google Docs. So first of all, I would encourage you to find a Google partner. So in order to do that, you could contact Google Sales and they will align you with a partner. You might even come across us via Highview, or you could feel free to reach out to us directly. We would love to work with you. If you do that initially, we could actually help you build and present that business case internally and work with Google Sales to identify current usage. And then there's generally, if everyone in the organization's bought in, there's an exercise where we determine the project scope, how we want to actually roll out, overall objectives, sponsor, and how we want to staff this project if it's a larger implementation. We also do a pretty thorough evaluation of G Suite Business versus Enterprise. So there's some features in the Enterprise edition around data loss prevention, third-party archiving, and a couple other items on the admin side that might be worthwhile, and otherwise the business SKU will likely fit your needs. From there, we provide an overall quote for implementation services and just give you a sense of the types of deliverables that would be involved for this type of a project. In the first phase, we would typically break this into sort of two phases, like a technical and then a training and change management phase. On the technical side, mainly maybe integrating with your Active Directory environment or SSO configuration. We do a security review of the admin console, implement best practices, set up data loss prevention or retention policies. We define those coexistence guidelines. So if you have Office 365 and OneDrive and now you have Google Drive, it always creates questions. So we always like to be very clear with a coexistence guide. Conflict accounts, this is when you have a managed G Suite instance and then people have those free Google accounts and we resolve those. And then we like to pilot our training and communications approach and incorporate any feedback from this phase one for the phase two, which is really focused on more execution and rollout. So we actually deliver the training and communications, and then your enterprise goes live with Drive and Docs. So a note on communicating and creating your coexistence strategy. Just some common questions here, just to give you a sense of what's involved with this. Sometimes we get questions such as, can I use Drive to store all my files? Or when should I use OneDrive versus Drive? Or how about Box? Or what's going on with SharePoint? When should I use Drive Sites, for instance, versus SharePoint? This next one's really popular. Lots of people ask, is Excel going away? They hear Google Drive and Google Sheets, and they immediately get afraid that you're going to take Excel away. So it's important to address that up front and let them know, no, this is actually more as a plan to increase collaboration and will be an added tool set, but you're not taking Excel away from people that need it. And then what about the rest of G Suite? So there are lots of people that will naturally want to start using Gmail, for instance. So just being very clear on what the organization's policies are for that. Okay, getting into the second approach here, creating a unified platform for file storage and collaboration. The process is similar, but there's a couple extra steps. With this option, I would recommend more than ever to find a Google partner. Once again, this is our specialty, so highly recommend get in contact with us. But we will not only be able to help you build and present that business case, but we'll also go a step further and help you compile that analysis of consolidating to Drive and some of the cost savings and operational efficiencies that we've seen other customers realize by moving away from a multi-cloud environment or a multi-storage services environment to Google Drive. Scoping the project objectives and staffing is the same, determining business SKUs. This next one's a little different because of the data migration. So data migrations can take a couple weeks up to 3 or 4 months for customers that have several like tons and tons of terabytes of data. It really depends on your organization and how complex the sharing is in the systems that we're migrating from. And that really drives the main bulk of the work for phase one. There's a lot of work around data migration. And then, of course, everything that we also included in the past option one that we just reviewed, such as the coexistence guidelines, account resolution, etc. And then two, with the communication strategy here, we not only need to execute communication and training, but we also need to really hit home that Drive is the unified file storage and sharing environment. Since this is a bigger change for an organization, typically representatives from our change management team will come in more heavy-handed and help you build an internal marketing campaign at your organization to get everyone on board and just ensure that everyone's excited about the move to Google Drive. And it's a business change versus an IT driven change. Great. Okay, so that's all the content I wanted to cover. I know I had originally booked an hour, but what I'd like to do is just generally uh, open it up for questions from the group, and I'll take any questions in the questions box. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and end the session early. Okay, great. So I had one question come in. Someone asked, how long does a typical deployment take? So that's a good question. Going back a couple slides here, if we're just thinking about this type of a rollout, and let's just say an organization with about 500 employees is like a standard. With the first approach of just releasing Google Docs, depending on how aggressively your team wants to move, this could be sequenced over basically a 4-week period. And the main driver of that timeline is getting the account set up, going through all the integrations, and then also too giving your users a heads up about any type of training that will be coming up. So I would say for 500 user organization, scheduling this type of rollout over 4 weeks is good. For this type of a approach, where we're actually not only releasing Google Drive, but also migrating data, I would say a minimum of probably 6 to 8 weeks. And then for larger organizations, maybe getting into even a 3-month, probably about that 12-week time frame is basically what we've seen as a general rule of thumb. But yeah, this is largely dictated by your environment and how quickly you guys want to move on your side. Okay, great. So I had another question around G Suite licensing costs and what types of discounts there are for more enterprise customers. So G Suite Business starts at $10 per user per month. G Suite Enterprise is $25 per user per month. That's the standard MSRP. However, there are always types of offers and promotions. And so if you reach out to us as a Google partner, we could take a look and try to secure a discount or potentially a lock-in price if you're willing to sign, for instance, a multi-year contract for a rollout of Google Drive. There's lots of creative ways where Google handles the move from your current system. So encourage you to reach out to us, and we could involve Google Sales and talk about the options for your business. Great. Okay, perfect. I think that's it for questions. So with that, I'll go ahead and end the session. Once again, thank you all for taking the time to attend. Hopefully this gives you a better sense of how organizations are rolling out Google Drive and improving workplace collaboration. As a follow-up, please reach out to me, Miles at Highview Solutions, or you can reach our team, Sales at Highview Solutions. This is also my direct number here, so feel free to give us a call, and we would love to connect with you. Great. Okay, thanks everyone, and have a pleasant day.